What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade JJ Williams, and today we're going to take a look at the documentary / historical reenactment film Killing Lincoln from 2013, based on the book by Bill O'Reilly and starring Tom Hanks, Billy Campbell, Jesse Johnson, Geraldine Hughes, and Robin Lord Taylor. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. Like I said during the introduction, today's film we're going to take a look at is a documentary / historical reenactment film with Tom Hanks serving as our host, narrator for the film. Now, our movie begins on April 14th, 1865 at 10:15 p.m., just outside the Ford's Theater in Washington City. John Wilkes Booth enters the theater and assassinates Abraham Lincoln. We then go back to the day before, into the Herndon boarding house, also in Washington City, where Booth initiated the plan to kill Lincoln and decapitate the government of the United States. As the Civil War, which lasted for 4 years, draws to its end, and Washington City celebrates the surrender of Robert E. Lee and his Confederate Army, Booth and his co-conspirators plot a carefully coordinated triple murder of Lincoln, the Vice President, and the Secretary of State. Tom Hanks then comes on and tells us that this is the true story of the killing of Abraham Lincoln, which was the first assassination of an American president, and quite possibly the most resident crime in the history of the nation. However, Booth's assassination attempt wasn't the first time that Lincoln was targeted. From 1861 through March of 1865, at least 5 kidnapping or assassination schemes were hatched, although none were attempted, except for perhaps one. 8 months earlier, in August of 1864, Abraham Lincoln is riding alone, as was his custom. A rifle shot rings out, scaring his horse and causing him to lose his trademark hat. Now, Booth was a third-generation actor who was on his way to becoming one of the best actors of his time. And he was reduced by history to a two-dimensional scoundrel and a madman because of what he did. On March 4th, 1865, during Lincoln's second inaugural address, Booth is present. On the evening of April 10th, 1865, Washington City is in full celebration, and a crowd gathered in front of the White House, calling for Lincoln to speak. However, he politely promises a speech the following evening and requests that the band on site play the Confederate anthem, Dixie. Meanwhile, 5 blocks away from the White House, Booth is armed and heading towards the White House. When he's about 2 blocks away, Booth is stopped by the managing director of Ford's Theater, who invites him to go have a drink, and Booth obliges. On April 11th, 1865, faithful to his promise, Lincoln gives a speech, and Booth is present. At this point, Abraham Lincoln unknowingly only has 4 days left to live. On April 13th, Booth visits Grover's Theater and learns that a production of Aladdin is planned for the next evening, April 14th, which was Good Friday, and the president has been invited to attend. Booth arranges for a ticket to the box adjoining the president's and informs his co-conspirators that the plan has changed from a kidnapping to a murder. At 10:15 p.m., 8 blocks away from Ford's Theater, at the home of Secretary of State William Seward, Lewis Powell attempts to murder Seward and his family, while Booth assassinates Lincoln. 1,500 people witnessed the assassination of Lincoln at Ford's Theater that evening. However, no two accounts of the event match. At 7:21 and 55 seconds on Saturday, April 15th, 1865, Abraham Lincoln drew his last breath. 15 seconds later, his heart stopped. On April 26th, 1865, John Wilkes Booth draws his last breath shortly after dawn as a result of Boston Corbett shooting him in the neck. George Atzerodt, 30 years old, Lewis Powell, 21 years old, and David Harold, 23 years old, the other co-conspirators, are all sentenced to death. And on July 7th, 1865, the 3 men are hung for their crimes. This was an interesting retelling of what happened to Lincoln. I think all of us that have been through a history class know that Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth at the Ford's Theater. But what we don't know, or we didn't know, was the why, the reason. What was it about Lincoln that just really got Booth riled up to where he wanted to do that? And we learn a lot about that in this film. It's only about an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes. The way it bounces back and forth between the film portion, the reenactment portion, and then cutting to Tom Hanks, kind of setting up what's going on, I think is very well done. And it's a good way to kind of just remind everybody that while this is history that we're watching, it's also a film. So the little cutbacks to Tom Hanks kind of just remind everybody, this is a film. This is a dramatization, although it's based on legitimate facts. That way we don't get so caught up and angered by the actions of what's going on, because we're constantly reminded that it's just a movie. I will never understand why somebody would assassinate somebody. I just don't. To me, that's cowardice. Especially the fact that Booth shoots Lincoln in the back, from behind. It's not face to face. It's not man to man. It's cowardly and from behind. I just couldn't imagine having such an issue with somebody where I would want to sneak up on them and murder them in cold blood. Premeditated. I just can't see it. But these were crimes of passion, because you've got to remember the Civil War, North versus South, slavery, the slaves being freed, and just how intense all of that was at the time. Brothers were fighting brothers. Fathers were fighting sons. It was just a crazy point in our nation's history. It was well done. I'm not even going to dispute that. Do I think it's something I could go back and constantly rewatch? I don't know. The acting was definitely very well done. You definitely get caught up in Jesse Johnson's performance of John Wilkes Booth. You know, you just get sucked in to the insanity and the chaos that was his mind at the time. All while Billy Campbell does his best to just deliver this dignified portrayal of Abraham Lincoln. Again, it was very well done. I did enjoy it. When it comes to my rating for this, I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 stars. It's intense. It's everything that it should be, but I don't know about the rewatchability factor for me. The jury is still out on that one, if you will. This was my first time seeing it, watching it so I could discuss it and review it with you guys. The second documentary that we've done with Tom Hanks as our narrator. We had Magnificent Desolation and now Killing Lincoln. He's so good at just delivering the nuances and the intricacies and the things that you need to know before allowing us to then view whether it's the archival footage from NASA or the Hollywood dramatization reenactment of this. The meat and potatoes of the story. Tom Hanks is so good at setting up the little nuances to lead into those things. I would love it if he narrated all these style of documentary films. 3 out of 5 stars, though, for Killing Lincoln once again. What do you guys think? Those of you that have seen Killing Lincoln, let me know. If you're watching the premiere, leave your thoughts and comments over here. If you're watching on demand later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down here. Whatever you do, though, when you get out there on social media, let's try to get those hashtags trending. Hashtag Casa D18 Studios, hashtag Renegades Reviews, hashtag Renegade Returns, and of course, the ever popular hashtag Shenanigans. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade JJ Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag Statboy Approved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow, right back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, when we take a look at 2013's Captain Phillips, starring Tom Hanks, Barkhad Abadi, Michael Chernus, Barkhad Abdurrahman, Faisal Ahmed, Mahatma Ali, David Warshawski, and Corey Johnson. You're not going to want to miss out on that one tomorrow, right back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, right back here on an all-new Renegades Reviews, when we take a look at Captain Phillips. To all my loyal fans and viewers out there, tuning in for the premiere, leaving your thoughts and comments over here, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Likewise, all my loyal fans and viewers out there tuning in a little bit later in the day, watching on demand, leaving your thoughts and comments down here. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate all my loyal fans and viewers out there that tune in on a regular basis, show me that love, show me that support, going back to the archives, unearthing those old episodes, rewatching them, reliving them in an effort to help boost up my viewership hours so I can eventually get monetized, make some money on this endeavor. Thank you very much to all those out there who tuned in and joined me here today, and I will see you guys next time.